G'day, it's Jamie, and welcome to Where's My Yowie. Today, I'm reading an old newspaper article about Western Australian Aboriginal Serpent mythology and giant snakes, so we'll get into it. This was published in the West Australian on Saturday, the 11th of May, 1912, titled Haunted Places of the West, Native Belief in Hostile Spirits, by Daisy M. Bates, F.R.A.S., etc. Amongst all the native tribes of the West, with whose members I am personally acquainted, I have failed to find an equivalent for the beings Barney Ambi and Darramoolan, who are stated by writers of the Eastern Aborigines to have been all-fathers, supreme beings, and teachers of native moral and other laws. I was led to this inquiry more than 8 years ago through a communication from the late Reverend John Fraser, LLD, of Sydney, who requested me to look for traces of a Western belief in the god Barney Ambi and his supposed character of All-Father, but I found no trace of such being existing amongst the local tribes. I have, however, discovered that in every tribe there is a profound belief in some spirit presence, which dwells in a tree, hill, waterhole, or cave in some part of the tribal territory, the home of such spirit being sacred or forbidden ground forever, to all except the elders and sorcerers of the tribe. The spirit takes various forms, the principal one being that of huge mythical snake, which has its home in some mystical, gloomy spot whose surroundings lend themselves to the mystery and fear attached to the belief. In connection with this subject, I may say that it is very easy to misunderstand a native who is questioned regarding the existence of one of these mythical snakes. Suppose an ordinary inquirer were to ask a native of the southwest who or what the Woggle, mythical snake, was that haunted a certain tree or cave in his district, the native would probably tell him, "Oh, that Woggle, big fellow, he make rivers, hills, trees everywhere. And if natives are bad, immoral or disobedient, he make 'em sick. Or might he kill 'em big, spirit, that one Woggle." From this statement, the questioner would infer that the Woggle was imbued with the powers of a supreme being, whereas the native merely meant that the Woggle was a huge spirit, a snake which, from its abnormal size, had made by various means the rivers, hills and trees within its own district only, and that its place of abode had better be avoided through fear of vengeance of such a great and powerful monster. This profound belief in the actual presence of the mystical snake in haunted places and its power to injure or kill those upon whom its anger falls is current amongst all the known tribes of Western Australia. In the murky depths of the Chaliong Pool, away in the northwest, the Kajuda, as it is called, lies in wait for its victims, but communes in a friendly way with the astral embodiments of local sorcerers who come to consult it on matters of magic and moment. Far away amongst the rocky outcrops that protrude here and there in the Spinifex region of the interior, the dreaded Barney Ambi has its home, hidden within the recesses of some weird, oddly shaped hill or rock. In the Murchison watershed, there are haunted springs, whose guardian spirit is a monstrous Gila, and in the native Wilgie mine of the Weld Range, the Gila keeps watch and ward, in company with the spirits of long-dead owners of the hill and valley over the precious ochre. Throughout the south and southwestern districts, the Woggle is avenger, guardian spirit, or healer, according to the various local traditions concerning it. I have found it as a healer in the Victoria Plains district when it carried a wounded totem brother to its feather-lined lair at the bottom of the pool, cleansing and licking the spear wound and rising again from the depths to deposit the cured friend, who rode upon its huge back and clutched its hairy mane on his way upwards through the darkling waters. Down in the Williams area, it is known as an avenger of broken native laws, and the natives of the district will point fearsomely to the wide lake that once was solid earth, which had been turned upside down with all its native inhabitants and transformed into a lake because of some boys' foolish mockery of their food law. The spirits of these victims of the Woggle's wrath are said to haunt the shores of the lake, beneath which their bones are buried. When the Woggle becomes the guardian spirit of some favoured hill, pool, cave or tree in other areas, the home people must, in passing its vicinity, strew a bed of rushes to propitiate it. Otherwise, sickness or death will follow and seize them. This mystical snake has therefore many attributes, but in all the many legends attached to it, there is no trace of its ever having been a human. It is reptilian throughout. It has been variously described. It is feathered and finned, maned and horny, according to the narrator's district, but none deny its enormous size, and all agree in the description of its supernatural strength and magic powers. Other spirits haunt certain places also, but throughout the whole known parts of the West, the mythical spirit snake takes precedence of these form from its huge bulk and great magic prowess. Interesting legends. The following legends, culled from various districts, will give some little idea of the natives' belief in the spirit, hauntings and supernatural happenings which overshadow his whole life and which help to make him the fearsome, superstitious creature we know him to be. The late Bishop Salvador, in his History of the Natives of Western Australia, mentions the natives' belief in the presence of a mythical snake, Waggle, which inhabited a dead pool in the neighbourhood of New Norcia. Dr. Salvador's account illustrates the great fear the natives held of the monster. One evening, he says, I was seated in my room after a long and trying day, when a voice from without called to me. I went out and found several natives who had come in from a long day's hunt. Give us some water, they said. I gave them all I had, but they asked for more. Go down to the pool, I said, and drink all you want. No, they replied, you come and get it for us. I am tired and can't go, I said. They conferred together, and presently one of the elders came to me and said, we cannot take water from that pool. It is forbidden, sacred. And if we go there, the Waggle will kill us. But if you go, you are a white man's spirit, and the spirit Waggle won't hurt you. There was nothing for it but to rise and go with them. We went along the track towards the pool, the natives walking in single file behind me. I reached the pool, filled the vessels, and brought them to where the natives waited a little distance away, as they would not approach the pool. On our return to the house, the same mode of single file was followed, but this time the natives went in front of me, so that, should the spirit of the pool chase us, I would become its first victim, and they would have time to escape. Bell Book's story. Balbook, the last Perth district native woman, once told me that in the Minjalogan swamps near Mr. Bailey's house, there was a deep water hole where a Woggle sat down. One day a native killed some grey possums, and he came to the Woggle's water hole to cook and eat the possum. The Woggle immediately rose out of the water and swallowed the young native, but his struggles disturbed its stomach, and it vomited him up again. Then the Woggle told the native he would have to find meat and food for it, and so every day the native went out and brought home kangaroos, possums, and emu, and fed the Woggle with all the food he caught. After a time, he got tired of hunting for the Woggle, and so he went away from Minjalogan. The Woggle came up as usual and looked for his meat, but there was none. And the next day he came, but there was still no meat. Then he looked magically for him, the native, and when he found him, he covered him all over with lice. And the native scratched his breast and made a hole, and scratched his side and made a hole. And everywhere he scratched, he made holes and very soon died. The Minjalogan Woggle had long hair on its neck and wing-like flaps along its sides. No one could drink the water at Minjalogan, and no native hut could be made there, for the saplings wouldn't hold, because the Woggle upheaved them. The Woggle also forbade anyone to use paper bark there, for paper bark was its cloak. One day, Balbook said, Mr. Bailey went to dig in the forbidden sacred ground, and as he tried to dig in the sand, something resisted his spade, and he couldn't lift any sand. He went home, and when he got near his house, he looked around and saw a big snake like a tree. He's got his gun and shot at the snake, but he couldn't kill it, and then the snake frightened him so much that he left the place and would not live there any more. At Minjalinging Pool, near York, the Woggle, when angry, used to go away from the pool, taking all the water with him. Sometimes he took it away in the morning, leaving the hole dry, and brought it back in the afternoon, and when it was filled again. Spirit's favourite home. Sometimes the Woggle is in the sea, and sometimes in the rocks and hills, but his favourite homes are in the deep water holes. He can carry swamps and bulrushes on his back, for he is of enormous strength. No meat or food must be cut near the Woggle's forbidden sacred place, or the Woggle will smell the meat and food and will come up and eat the meat and food and the natives. At Perry's lime kiln near Fremantle, there was a forbidden sacred place, and if a native cut up a possum or an emu or any animal the wrong way, there are certain laws regulating the manner in which game must be cut or broken and divided. The Woggle, sulky snake, broke the hunting dog's back. Rushes must be always strewn in this forbidden sacred place where the natives are passing in the vicinity, or the Woggle will follow and kill them or break their dogs' backs. The rushes are always strewn for the Woggle's bed. Haunted Hill at Claremont. At Carbo Manup and Beerigup, Claremont Hill and Peppermint Grove, some children broke one of their food laws, and the spirit Woggle living in the hill became so angry that it came out of the hill and swallowed all the men, women and children of the place, except one woman who was pregnant. There is, or was, a peculiar shaped stone on or near the shore at Claremont, which was supposed to have been the pregnant woman, and the stone and the hill were afterwards forbidden ground. No spears must be sharpened at night in the vicinity, nor must any green wood be burnt, nor any meat or food cut up or broken in the wrong way. A native named Bimba, within recent times, broke a crow's wing in the wrong manner, and the same evening Bimba's dog's back was broken, and still more recently, some Northwest natives, in defiance of the superstition, held a corrobboree on Cabo Munup Hill, and 2 of their number were killed by the Woggle. Rushes were also strewn in the vicinity of Cabo Munup. With regard to other spirit-haunted places, the late G.F. Moore, during one of his expeditions northward, observed a remarkable standing stone, which native guides called Boye Go-Go Mat, and to which they attached marvellous powers. All inquiries produced no more satisfactory answer than it had been a man who had died, and that every native would die who neglected to make a bed for it in passing. The natives accompanying Moore proceeded to gather blackboy rushes and strewed them around the stone. Moore tried to get some more information respecting this stone and attacked the superstition with the argument that a stone was a stone, a man was a man, and therefore a stone was not a man, etc. The only result of this ingenious argument was the occasion to give it to Tujeep, Kudenbung's wife, to make merry at Moore's expense by parodying his words, "A stone is a stone, a man is a man." Balbook called this stone the stone where little babies sit down, and stated that when a woman wanted a baby, she journeyed to the district and looked fixedly at the stone while she strewed rushes around it. The spirit baby came to her, a little bird, whose voice could be heard, but who was never seen, lived in the stone, and no danger could come to the natives in passing when they heard the bird calling. If it remained silent, some member of the party died. There was also a forbidden sacred baby stone in a cave off Beverly Road, which possessed similar powers. Babies used to come to the woman who looked at this stone, but one day a great bird like an owl came to the stone and, making a big noise, frightened the babies away. And they all went into another stone in a place called Ealing, southeast of Beverly, where you could often hear their voices as they frolicked and sang. Near the cave at Beverly, a boy had killed his mother, and her spirit of a recently dead native remained in the vicinity until the boy was passing the cave again. The mother's spirit caught him and brought him into the cave, and was going to turn him into a spirit. But the sorcerer of the boy's tribe went to the cave and saved him. There was another forbidden sacred stone at Beeragunning, north of the Helena River, which had a great split down the middle, sufficiently wide for a person to pass through. At the foot of this stone, rushes were also strewn by the home people. The natives, when passing the stone, had to go through the opening in the middle, and if they touched either side in their passage through, they died. Sometimes the stone was sulky when a native tried to pass between it, and it closed upon him, and when he went through, and then he knew that his death would soon occur. If the stone was heard to crack when a native passed through it, he died very soon afterwards. If a stranger accompanied the home people, they had to call out his district name as they approached the stone, and if it was silent, the stranger was all right. But if it creaked, he died. Strange natives have often tried to defy the power in the stone, but they always died. There was a spirit of a recently dead native in this stone, and sometimes at night the voice of the spirit was heard, and whoever heard his voice died, for the spirit in this stone was always sulky. At Jagulu, a spot on the Helen River Hills, there is a forbidden sacred place with a stone in the middle of it. The natives, when passing this spot, swept the stone and the ground round it quite clean. They would, however, visit the place soon after and find a piece of meat on the stone. They, they knew their death was near, for the spirits was eating their flesh. Jinjin Superstitions. At a place called Quiaman, between Jinjin and Dungadaga, there were spirits who took the shape of men, and these spirits used to watch for natives who were travelling alone. They followed the native until he came to a waterhole, and when he stooped to drink, the spirits pulled out all his hair and left him with no hair on his head or body. When the Dangadaga spirits chased the native, as they sometimes did, the native made for the nearest river, which he crossed quickly and so escaped. For the spirits, on reaching the river, stopped to admire his shadow, and the native had time to make his escape. As the spirits looked at himself, he sang his praises to himself. There were man-eating spirits in the old days, for once upon a time, spirits went out to catch natives to eat. He caught a young man who was gathering and eating Barney black boy grubs, and he put him in his kangaroo skin bag, saying, What? Eating my Barney? So he put the kangaroo bag on his back and went through the trees to his fire home. The native, who was in the kangaroo skin bag, stretched out his hand and tried to catch hold of the trees. And at last, after much trying, he caught hold of a branch and pulled himself out and ran away from the spirit. Meanwhile, the spirit, who thought the native was still in his bag, went along to his home, and when he arrived there, he put the bag on the ground, and picking up his digging stick, he opened the bag and very gently to kill the native, but the native wasn't in it. When he found that the man had escaped, he was so angry with himself that he speared himself and beat his body all over with the digging stick. Then he turned to stone, and at Darrigan you can see the stone with the digging stick marks all over it. Travelling people always strewed bushes and rushes beside the Darrigan stone. In the Bass and Bunbury districts, there are forbidden sacred trees round which rushes are strewn by passing travellers in order to win favour of the spirit's Woggle that inhabits the haunted tree. The strewing of rushes round these sacred and haunted spots, the swept spaces, the meat offerings, may all be construed into appeal to or an attempt to appropriate the spirit of the snake, bird, spirit baby, or spirit man, which haunts or inhabits the stone, waterhole, or hill. These beliefs still exist, and even at the present day, those natives who are aware of the traditions concerning the haunted places will not dare to venture within the forbidden circles. Amongst some tribes, there are individuals who are able to control the spirits haunting their district, at least to a certain extent, but these individuals are always the sorcerers of the tribe, and as such are almost as much dreaded as the mythical snake or other spirits with whom they are supposed to hold commune. The old Aboriginal territories of Western Australia abounded in haunted places, but the origin of these traditions, the how and why of many of these hauntings, will never be discovered, for the rapid extinction of the southern and southwestern natives, with their wealth of legend and tradition, has only made possible the collection from a few existing members of part of their vast store of folk and spirit lore. The end. That's really interesting. Then I like the giant snake stuff. That's pretty cool. And just on the giant snake, the serpent thing, at the start, the Aborigine was saying that the giant snake, the Woggle, the serpent, he made rivers, hills, and trees everywhere. And it's really interesting to me because I used to live in the Tweed Valley, and the Tweed Valley Aborigines believe that a giant serpent carved out the Tweed Caldera and circled around Mount Warning, and that's how the caldera was formed, which is really interesting. And then they also mentioned a couple of times about a hairy mane on the giant snake, and that's really interesting because I did a video called The Mindy or Mallee Snake, giant serpent sighting in the Mallee Scrub in the 1840s, and that was set in Western New South Wales near the Victorian border and South Australian border, and their snake there had a hairy mane as well. So it's interesting that both sides of the country, the giant serpent stories have got hairy maned snakes, which is really interesting. Okay, that's it for me. I'll get back to you all next time. Bye.